and we were living in like a 4x4, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. But I'm like, we're never home. Who cares? Like, someone's paying our mortgage. We were house hacking without knowing what house hacking was. And we were able to get into a house with very low down payment. And because of that, it allowed us to really amplify our savings.
For our Family Fi segment, we're talking about achieving financial independence with kids. Now, a lot of people think that you have to choose one or the other. You can't have financial independence if you've got kids, or you can't have kids if you want financial independence. Well, our guest today is going to share her path to financial independence with kids. Jen Narciso is my guest today. Jen is a mother, a content creator, and investor who was actually laid off in 2020, but found her own version of Family Fi after that. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Andy, thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure. I love all the content you create, and I'm such a fan. So I'm happy to be on and provide any wisdom that I can share.
Oh, Jen, that means a lot to me. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate you being a part of this conversation to help people find their own version of family financial independence. So when did you decide you wanted financial independence for your family? Talk to me about that.
So it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this, and when I was younger, I literally had the rich dad, poor dad experience play out in front of me with a friend's parent. And they were two friends, both dads, accountants, and one dad would work super late and justify it by saying that he worked local so that if he would have worked in the city or something, he'd have a commute. So he'd come home at like 7 o'clock at night still, even though he could have ended work at 5. And then my other friend's dad would own the building that the other guy worked in, and he was off golfing and doing all these awesome things and spending time with his kids. Even though he had a practice too, he hired people. And he said, Jen, just get into real estate, do things, live below your means, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was young and 20 and okay, like whatever. But it kind of always sat with me, but I didn't realize I was doing the things. It was kind of at a subconscious level from that point on, if that makes sense.
That's very good. That's a really good example. I remember reading that book too in my 20s. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to get into real estate. So did you end up getting into real estate after that? What led you to that?
Yeah, so my boyfriend at the time, now husband, I said to him, okay, we're going to do this. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, let's just buy a house. He's like, we're not even married. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll just buy a house. And so this was back in 2013. And I wish I knew then what I know now, but we decided to buy a duplex in a decent area. It wasn't like the best area where we are, but it was much better than a lot of other areas, if that makes sense. And so at the time we thought $200,000 for a house was expensive, and we're in the Northeast outside of the city. So for those of you listening, you're probably like, oh my goodness, you should have bought 20, which yes, we should have bought 20, but we didn't.
And when she says the city, she's talking about New York City.
Yeah. So like, yeah, for $250,000, we got an awesome duplex. And it was really funny because all of our friends made fun of us because the duplex had tenants upstairs. That was a 2-bed, 1 bath. And we were living in like a 4x4, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. But I'm like, we're never home. Who cares? Like, someone's paying our mortgage. We were house hacking without knowing what house hacking was. And we were able to get into a house with very low down payment. And because of that, it allowed us to really amplify our savings. Because I wasn't a high income earner. I was in a nonprofit sector, but my husband was decently making, but we were also living in the Northeast. So it's all relative of what high income earner means anyway, but we live below our means. We were always saving kind of first. But we did this without knowing what we were doing. We made tons of money mistakes. Like everything that people tell you not to do, we totally did. And we still figured it out.
Oh, I love that. Well, yeah, getting started in real estate, I mean, that's a big wealth creator for a lot of people. And if you just hold on to it and stick with it, it can pay off in the long run. So I alluded to it at the beginning of the show that you lost your job during the pandemic.
Yep.
Was this the nonprofit job?
Yeah,
and then,
this was the nonprofit.
What were the circumstances that led to that?
So I did want to also say too, because I think this is also important for people. When we were house hacking, we also had our daughter during the house hack. And so, because I know house hacking is a similar mindset that you can't do it with kids. And I think it's so important if you can to do it with kids because it teaches them. Like we literally taught our daughter about investing from the day she was born. We were included her when we were screening tenants. We included her when we were talking about money, or if we had a vacancy, or if we had to go to the house. Now she's 6 and we have our son rather, and he's 2.5, but they come with us. They're included in all of our money decisions. And I think that's just so important to just highlight and acknowledge. But in 2020, I had just given birth to our son, and I kind of had a feeling with once COVID hit that things were going to get scarce, if that makes sense. Because I started working at the nonprofit in '08. I came in right before that recession hit, and so I saw some of the writings on the wall. So at that time, I had also recently launched Investor Mama. I knew that things were going to get a little sour at work. And so at that point, we actually decided to buy our single family home. And because through all those years that we were house hacking, we were able to save up. And I was not concerned because I knew we had a very strong emergency fund at that point. If I did lose my job, it wasn't going to be the scary end of the world thing.
Oh, so that's incredible. So you had enough money to weather the storm,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also had enough income coming in from your rentals to make it not feel as impactful when you had your second child.
It was,
Is that right?
yeah, and it was also we tightened our belt. Like we did the exercise of going through our expenses, seeing really where can we cut. When honestly, we just did it again. My husband and I sat down last month and we went through our expenses because right now things are getting tight. Because I also pivoted and became a real estate agent. So it's also something I always kind of recommend people. A job is never secure, but if you can just develop skills, and you'll always be okay. And so no matter what happens, just have confidence in yourself that you'll figure it out and that like you can do hard things. And so at that time too, I was getting my real estate license. Like I kind of knew. And even if you don't know, you just always assume you could always lose your job because you really can. And having backup plans is just a great safety net. And so, yeah, I was getting my real estate license at the time. I was doing a couple other things to kind of just set myself up for if I had to pivot fast, I would be able to.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've diversified your income in quite a few ways. You got the real estate thing. You said you have a content creation through Investor Mama, and then your rental income. And I guess the fourth lever you pulled, as you talked about, is just being able to flex with the amount of money you spend in life. So talk to us about that conversation that you had with your husband at the time. I mean, how did you guys do that? And maybe giving instructions to people to say,
Sure.
hey, if things are tighter, here's a way to get through it.
I'm the money person. My husband is not. So it was pulling teeth to get him to sit down. I love him very dearly, but having a money date is so crucial. And I know it can be torturous because I live it. But I said, listen, we really got to tighten our belt now because even right now, real estate's slowing down significantly. And I'm worried that we're going to need to pivot again. So we had the talk, got all of our bank accounts together for the past like 8 months, went through, was shocked at where some of our money was going because we had everything on autopilot. And again, even like I'm a huge money nerd and I could not believe where our money was going. So if you haven't done this exercise in a while, you should definitely still do it. And if you're married, sit down with your significant other, your spouse, and go through it. I mean, I think our grocery bill and food bill was like almost, I don't even want to say it, but it was like 1,500. It was like 1,500 to 2,000 a month. Like, and then we had a category of like miscellaneous, which is like Amazon and all these other things like haircuts, like things that we didn't need to do was also like $2,000 a month. I'm like, we're spending almost $4,000 a month on like, I don't even know. So total discretionary spending that we are cutting back on and acknowledging, but we never would have known if we didn't sit down together and just do it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I think the act, sometimes people feel like, oh, I got to get another job, or I got to increase my income, or whatever, I have to side hustle. The sheer act of just looking at your budget and saying, well, do I want to work that many extra hours, or do I just want to maybe cut back my unnecessary spending a bit? I mean, that could create almost a full income there,
I know,
depending on how much you're spending.
Yeah,
right?
and it's so silly too. I mean, granted, like not everyone's in. I want to fully acknowledge. I know that we're in a very different position than many other people who may not have the luxury to do it, but it's definitely worth a start to do. Especially like we felt it like when for us now, especially with kids, like we need to get money quickly. Like we don't have the luxury of like at this point in our life to think of a new side hustle or start a new business. If we need money, we're gonna need it. We need it cut, and that's like the first place that we can go to get quick money and really reduce our lifestyle. I mean, our lifestyle has been inflated, and like I said, even people who do watch their money a lot, it's just so easy to have that creep in.
I love that. So you guys have essentially created financial independence for yourself through real estate, through creating a series of small businesses, and then just looking at your budget in very intently and making sure you're spending in accordance with your values. Is that
Yeah, well,
right?
I should. My husband still works. We're not completely financial free. Even me, I probably need to bring in a little bit of income. We're very close for me being FI, but we also have. We actually sat down and had this conversation of the lifestyle we want. That I do want to work more, but it's been a choice to work. If that makes sense. Like if I really didn't want to work, I wouldn't have to. But then we'd have to cut our lifestyle more than I would like to. But
I agree with you. And when we talk about the traditional version of I almost don't even want to talk about that anymore, just because I feel like that's so unattainable for most people in our
yeah.
country, unless I don't know. But yes, there are people who've done it. I've had the opportunity to interview some of those folks on the show. I think that's fantastic. But I would say for most people, it is this type of activity that creates your version of family financial independence. It's being able to tighten your belts. It's being able to create income sources outside of a typical
Mhm.
job, and then making decisions that are best for your family at this time. You have young children. You want to be able to be there to help them. And like you said with your rich dad story at the beginning, you want to be a part of their
Yeah.
lives, especially as the important parts are happening. So let's talk to the person who's listening right now and then maybe thinking, you know what, financial independence, I don't think that's something that I can do because I can't get millions and millions of dollars in a taxable brokerage account and then live off the balance. What's one step that they could take following this interview to find their own version of family financial independence?
First of all, anyone can do it. You're going to have to make some difficult decisions, and it may not be easy depending on your financial situation. I don't want to sugarcoat it and say, yes, like it's so easy to do, and like you're going to be financially free next year and all that. No, but anything worthwhile is worth doing. But it really is just starting with a baby step. And for whatever that is for you, my biggest recommendation first is just going through those expenses, because once you really know what your expenses are, where your money's going, and also your debts, now you can make some better decisions. Maybe it's automating more savings. Maybe it's cutting back a little bit more. Maybe it is getting that side hustle, but you won't know unless you actually have your data, I like to say, or your facts. And from there, you'll make better decisions. So the first thing you could do is just sit down and go through those expenses and really understand where your money's going. And then, like I said, also what debts you have and all that stuff.
I love it. Jen, tell people where they can connect with you and learn more from Investor Mama.
Sure. You can go to investormama.com/connect. You can find my social media. You can email me. I really would love to hear from you. Would love to hear your stories, your struggles, whatever, especially for those moms out there. I know financial independence is a whole other realm once you do have kids. So that's actually one of the reasons why I did create Investor Mama, was to really, just money conversations within Mom's Touch, so that women can have access and learn and ask more questions.
Awesome. Well, we have a lot of women that listen to this show that want to create family financial independence for their family. So hopefully they can connect with Jen and grow. Jen, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Andy, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.